My interest in art started, I would say, in kindergarten, where I have a story where I actually got left back in kindergarten because I didn't understand English yet. Therefore, I just drew all day, drew and colored all day. So I stayed back in kindergarten a whole extra year, but it isn't so bad. But coming from Puerto Rico and then going to pre-K that spoke predominantly only Spanish, then going to another town where they spoke English in New Jersey, I was a little bit behind. So my first year in kindergarten was just drawing and coloring all day, and I stayed back a whole year. And then the teachers just let me do that all day. It didn't bother me. But it was at that point where my mom realized I had a learning disability, and then through that, then she always reinforced my art interests, but she made sure that like my studies and my other subjects were as important. But she never said, "Oh, stop drawing, stop coloring." But she just made sure that I kept drawing and coloring as I was doing my schoolwork. So my mom is pretty much the main person underneath like my mentor that really helped me a lot in my art career. My mentor was Denise Tomasis. When I say was, because she died in 2012. I still consider her a mentor, even though she's not here anymore. But throughout college, she was my professor. My 5 years in college, she was my professor, getting my BFA. And she pretty much like directed me in everything I did up to that point. And even in grad school, even though she wasn't my professor in grad school, we still kept in contact. And she always kind of like guided me what to do. And then in a way, she's the most influential person when it comes to my artwork directly. Because her work was very like linear, it was very geometric, and she had very confident lines. I think she called herself a mark maker. I mean, if you actually saw her painting, it was very confident. Like every line was deliberate, and where everything was, and the composition. And I think in a way, with my sort of appropriated calligraphy, it's similar, where I want to make sure that when people view the work, it isn't like arbitrary. It's like, no, oh, this is obviously meant to look like this. There's no like abstraction or any sort of like, I don't like giving hints of insecurity in my work. I want to make sure that when people look at it, it's like, oh, this guy, he meant for this to look like this. Like, this is here because it has to be here. And her work is very similar. It's very compositionally like structured. Even though my work looks nothing like hers, that's where it kind of connects, and that's where I still think her work influences my work in a direct and indirect way. Every letter, when I'm writing, I imagine it in a box. So and some letters fit well in that box, and other letters don't fit quite well in that box. Like the letter T fits almost perfectly in that sort of imaginary box, or the L. But like the letter like W or Y, like it's just really awkward. They don't necessarily have to fit in that box, but I have an imaginary box when I'm like painting it. It's like I picture an imaginary box. Sometimes those boxes overlap, and sometimes they don't. So you kind of get and then which kind of creates a sort of, it could be visual confusion, because then some letters overlap with other letters. And that's where it becomes a bit illegible, I think that's the right word, non-readable, not readable. But learning, graphic design, even though I have a BFA from Rutgers and an MFA from Montclair, I did a lot of printmaking, a lot of like photography, a lot of like graphic design, and even like I took like 2 classes which is just specifically making letters freehand, and those classes are more influential now in my work than like my still life painting classes. Like, even though still life painting classes and anatomy and all that's really important, right now with my work, those additional classes, which I hated doing, But in hindsight, it's actually really, really important that I did those classes, especially in art history and all that. Didn't really like it at the time, but looking back, it was really important to take those particular classes. Even though I'm long ways away from graduating, since I graduated like academic, like from Rutgers to Montclair, I still kind of go back and think about what I learned in those classes, and I kind of add it on to what I'm doing now. So, yeah.